Kia ora and welcome back, everybody. Can I just confirm that we've got people online that need to be there? Gary, are you back with us?
I surely am.
Thank you. And we got your text to Ari. Thank you for your. That's much appreciated. Gary said he won't hold us to account if we get run 2 hours over without an extension. All right. All right. So we're going to go to morning tea, which is on the. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to go to item 1.5, external committee minutes for receiving. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please, to receive the motion? Councillor Connell, Councillor Rodley. Thank you. Now we've got Hauraki Golf Forum and Regional Transport Committee. I'd like to ask the delegates to those committees, is there anything that you would like to add or report back to council on either of those? So start with Councillor Connell.
Through the chair, I think that's a true and accurate record of that that committee meeting. But just to add that with the Southern Seabirds organisation, we now have a person employed to help Janice Malloy and myself organise the launch of a bird rescue or preventing bird bycatch with the recreational fishery over summer. So it's a trial program. It will be the first in the Rohi, and we're hoping for some good outcomes from that.
Was there some council involvement in that? We talked about signage and the wharf presence. Was there some council involvement?
I haven't committed council to anything, and we need to have a look at how that would work, or if we need council support.
But potentially an opportunity to work together?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Gary. Okay, John, anything on the Regional Transport Committee to report?
I was quick to find it before. No, there's nothing I want to bring to anybody's attention specifically that's not covered in the minutes. Len, you weren't there. It was me and Terry at that one, wasn't
No,
it?
that's right.
Yeah, no, it's pretty
Thank
well
you.
done.
And I have had a chat with John Grant as our delegate for the Waikato Civil Defence Emergency Management Group Joint Committee. He's happy to report that he's happy with what's been presented, nothing that he wanted to add. So I might move that those be accepted. Can I get a seconder, please?
Second.
All those in favour? Thank you. It's carried. Minutes for confirmation. Could I get a mover and a seconder to receive the community board minutes, please, just to receive at this stage? Councillor Rodley and a seconder. Councillor Connell, thank you. Is there anything that councillors need to add or comment on the individual community board reports, or can we just take those as read? Robin.
I just had a question about the Taiaroa Pawanui Community Board, not specifically about the recommendation to approve an easement, but just a bigger question that maybe could be addressed later about when easements require a charge and when they don't, because we've granted an easement in Ngārume Bay recently, the Thames Community Board has, of which we charged a fee, and this one has been granted without a fee. And so I just wondered if there was a rule for why some are and some aren't. It can come back to us later. It doesn't have to be addressed now.
Thank you. And my guess is that that is done on a case-by-case basis at individual community board level. But if anyone's got anything to add on that, happy to hear it. Nothing. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Robin. So if there's nothing else, oh, sorry, Martin.
Just at the bottom of page 26, the Thames Community Board recommendations, 3.1, it says Thames Sub-Regional Aquatic Facilities Project, but I thought that project was actually just talking about a swimming facility rather than definitely saying sub-regional project, because we haven't decided if it's going to be sub-regional yet or not.
Through the chair. What I'd say to that is correct. It hasn't been decided whether it would be sub-regional or not, and that's the reason why it's still being called sub-regional, because that's not been fully discounted or had a line put through it. So I think that's what at this stage it's still being referred to as the sub-regional. And if that's not going to pan out, then it would be pulled back to a local pool. So I think that's
Okay.
more in that. I don't know if that answers your
Thank you.
question.
So that's a historical thing. That's the terminology.
It's the name, yeah, it's the name of it, and it's often around those little details can mean a lot if you're going for external funding, you know, depending on what you've called it. You know, if you're going for some external funding, you'd have called it local pool. It's not quite as good. So yeah.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, if there's nothing else, could I move on a
Well,
second?
I had raised
Oh,
with
sorry.
Aria.
I'm
that-
sorry, Gary, didn't see you.
No, I had raised with Ari about, I did attend the risk and assurance by teams, and she was going to fix that up, so leave that alone.
That's coming as a separate,
I noticed it's at the end, but it's also in attachment F,
oh, I'm sorry, I see what you mean. Yep.
and it's just that
Through Chair, yes, I have noted that one down and that will be tidied up.
thank you.
Gary, was there anything else that you wanted
No.
to discuss on the risk and assurance item?
No,
Okay.
no, thank you.
Thank you. All right, can I get a mover and a seconder, please, for the minutes? Peter and anybody?
Are we doing all of the
All of
meeting
them,
minutes as a
yes,
lump?
yes,
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Robin, all right, those in favour? Thank you.
Through the Chair, just to clarify, did you want to do all the recommendations as part of that motion?
Unless you need to do them one by one.
I just wanted to make sure through the Chair that council understood that's what they were doing.
Yes.
Yeah, happy? Cool.
All right, thank you. Okay. Item 2.2, meeting schedule for 2024. I'll just get to my right page on this. Thank you. Page 87. Yep. Okay, can I get a mover and a seconder, please, to receive the meeting schedule? Rebecca
Second.
and John, thank you. Before we adopt, is there any discussion around the meeting schedule that's been put forward?
What's the, when it's got council meeting and then it's got council delibs and then council delibs deliberations, is that it's just to extend it, is it? Oh no, it's on, oh sorry, it's the 28th, 29th and 30th of May. It's got three in a row.
Yeah, I can answer that question. That's in regards to the LTP process, and that is the timeline that we're working with.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Thank you.
Lines up with the snake, Gary. I find it quite useful to have the snake printed out and stuck on the wall because
I thought you had it tattooed on you.
I was considering it, but it changes, which presents problems if you've got it tattooed.
Okay.
Peter.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic and very good to have the aspiration to have a schedule outlined for the year. I would like to request, so I see that in the schedule currently it's light during school holidays, and I think that's fantastic. What has ended up happening this year for all sorts of reasons is we've ended up putting meetings into school holidays, and I understand that why that ends up happening, etc., etc. I would like to request that that at least for the benefit of elected members with grandchildren and for staff with children, that at least we quarantine 1 week of those holidays that we say we're not going to put meetings in there, so that we can plan to do family activities without FOMO.
Can I second that on behalf of those elected members who have children as well as grandchildren? I second that. I'm seconding that on the basis that some of the elected members have children rather than grandchildren.
I did mention children. I mean elected members. Sorry, you're right. Yes.
So where does that leave us in terms of the current schedule? Do we need to go back and revisit?
Through the chair, no, we don't need to do that. We'll just take those comments on board. Thank you.
And my only concern is that we retain the concept of dry July. For obvious reasons. So it should be noted also that some of the community boards have chosen to incorporate their networking day at the end of the community board meetings on the same day, just to avoid trying to reposition themselves for 2 different days, and that seems to be working quite well received. If the community board meeting is only an hour and a half, and they've got everyone there, it makes sense to have the networking day on the same day. So, but that's up to individual community boards. If there's any changes that you would like to see made, and you come back and let Ari and the team know, I'm sure they'll work around that. So thank you. Okay, so can I get a mover and a seconder, please, for the adopting the 2024?
I'm happy to move.
Thank you, Peter and Reka. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 2.3, Hauraki Coromandel biking strategy. I'll ask for a mover and a seconder to receive the report, and then I'll open this up for discussion. And I know that there's going to be a couple of points that need to be raised in this. So
I'll move that we receive.
all right, thank you.
Martin, seconded.
Okay, so Robin and Martin, thank you. I'll open it up for discussion. Robin, there's some, and thank you, Mitch. Was there any, before we open it up for discussion, was there anything that you wanted to add to this?
I think it's pretty complete. A lot of work has gone into it, and it's been a lot of collective work, including the clubs and a whole variety of stakeholders. I think it was initiated over a year ago, so it's been a long time putting together, and the community feedback we had on the survey was quite great. We had about 560 responses, and so it was a good piece of work.
Thank you, Mitch. And it looks like it's pretty comprehensive. Discussion? Robin?
I actually just had one thing, and it was raised earlier because I'm very supportive of this. I like the recommendations, particularly the recommendation to then support this document with an active transport strategy. I would like to propose a third resolution where we change the name of the strategy from the Hauraki Coromandel biking strategy to the Hauraki Coromandel recreational biking strategy, because I think that more reflects the work that the document is trying to present.
Yeah, I agree. And it was something we tussled with early on in the piece because there's all sorts of people that get on bikes, and this represents a large group of them, but not all of them. It also doesn't do the commuting group or the road cyclists or the school journeys for kids and the get around town stuff. So the recreational component, I think that's a great recommendation.
I've agonised over exactly which wording, but I think recreational biking sums it up for me.
So is there any logistical process issues with including that word recreational in item 2, endorse the Hauraki Coromandel recreational biking strategy? Is there any issues?
Oh, no.
If not, I would propose, unless there's any further, sorry, Delhi.
I just wanted to thank everyone who's been involved in this, and the fact that during this process we have seen elements of this document as a work in progress. So it's not something that's landed on our tables and we've got to digest it. As a huge fan of infographics, I applaud the use of infographics in this document.
Thanks, Delly. I should also acknowledge Ali, who's just sitting over there. Most of you will have met her already.
Sure, Ali.
Yeah. Ali puts in a whole enormous amount of her own time into advancing this work as well. So she's really the champion of this project and has made great connections nationally as well in making sure that Coromandel is, at the top of people's thoughts when they think about active recreation.
Thank you, Mitch. Okay.
Yeah. Can I just say, I think it's incredibly exciting, that bringing it all together for the district as a proposition that we can then build on over the next umpteen years or however long it is, but really exciting proposition for us. Really good. Well done.
Thank you, Pete. Okay, so unless there's any further discussion, I'd like to propose that we include the word recreational. Could I get a mover and a seconder for item 2, please? Robin and Rebecca, all those in favour? Okay, you happy with that change in wording? Thank you. Thank you, Mitch.
Appreciate you guys.
Item 2.4, submission on the proposed national policy statement for natural hazard decision making 2023. Welcome, Leslie. Welcome, Bruce. So we'll get a mover and a seconder, please, to receive the report.
I'll move.
John and Delly, thank you. And we'll hand it over to Leslie and Bruce. Bruce and Leslie.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The seems a bit mundane after going through the work you've done this morning to get onto some policy documents. But this one, the first one under 2.4 is a draft submission to the proposed national policy statement on natural hazard decision making, which is submissions are due by the 20th of November. And we're just seeking approval from council for the submission to be lodged, which is appendix B, C, attachment C, attachment C. The aim of the policy statement is to provide direction nationally to decision makers on natural hazards, but in looking at it, the staff have formed the opinion that it seems to be a bit rushed. It's certainly one part of a process that involves a second tranche to provide a comprehensive national direction for natural hazards to be developed over the next 1 to 2 years, and the submission is really recommending that this process is completed as one project rather than 2 separate projects. I don't have to reiterate the effect that natural hazards has on this district, and I think it's probably appropriate that council does involve itself in putting forward a submission. We've got key areas of concern really that in the national policy statement that it does lack clarity in showing what is a low risk, an intolerable risk, and a generally acceptable risk. That's not defined in the policy statement, so it's up to each individual council to make their own mind up, whereas national direction would be far more beneficial to get some consistency nationwide, instead of leaving individual councils to determine what is low, moderate, or intolerable. And so that's really the gist of the submission that we've put together, that it should be done as a combined effort, get it done together with the comprehensive document that's going to follow, and give us some more clarity about the definitions of hazards, so that council as decision makers have some parameters to work with.
Thank you, Bruce. Leslie, anything to add to that?
Nothing from me, Your Honour.
Your worship.
I might ask Aileen. Do you have thoughts on this? Because I know it's something that ultimately that landing on your shoulders.
Thank you, councillor Reynolds, for the training session on my.
It's a bit like permission to speak, sir, you know, Blackadder.
Yeah, so I was involved in some of these developments through the local government steering group. And I guess in the heat of the event in Cyclone Gabriel, people were screaming out for help. We've got all of these situations. The planning regime is inadequate to deal with some of the aspects, particularly of existing use rights, and some of the really fast decisions that needed to be made about building back in the same location. And this is the government response. And how many months later are we now? So this was supposed to be the short-term stopgap policy. Unfortunately, it's arrived probably too late. And as Bruce has pointed out, some of the definitions really haven't taken us forward at all. So in my view, it's important we say that, but we really do need to focus on the next document that's coming, which they're talking about a 2-year time frame on it. That's going to be one of the key documents, assuming it survives the change in government and the new regime that's kicking in at MFE. But, you know, given the importance to us, it does seem important that we make that comment and make that statement to central government decision makers.
Thank you. And I'm interested in Bruce's comments about the lack of clarity on those definitions. Where does it leave you as a chief executive?
I think we agreed we're no better off and no worse off.
So you're comfortable with the submission?
Absolutely. It wouldn't be on the agenda if I wasn't.
I thought so. I just wanted clarity on that. Thank you. All right. Any questions, councillors? Peter and then Martin. Thank you.
So a couple of questions. So do I infer from what you've said, Aileen, that this policy document is kind of redundant or almost not with the paper it's written on? It's not going to affect anything in what we do. The important one is what's coming 2 years down the track.
I think that's the case for us. There may be other districts that perhaps haven't got the same state of planning documents that we do that might have some use for it. But that's certainly our position on it.
Okay.
And Bruce might have something further to add on that.
Yeah, the natural hazards provisions of the district plan do have a table showing tolerable, intolerable risk, and are quite robust, and have been, the decisions have been issued and subject to appeal, and we only had one very minor appeal on those natural hazard provisions. So I'm quite comfortable with what we've got in the district plan with regard to natural hazards.
Thank you.
Bearing in mind that's coastal erosion, tsunami, and flooding are the only natural hazards of addressing.
Yeah, my second question is, with this policy and its implementation, does it add cost to what we are doing, or does it add any cost to an applicant who is wanting to do something under this policy?
I wouldn't anticipate that it would add any additional costs based on the provisions that we've got in the proposed district plan.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Bruce, you wouldn't anticipate it would add any costs?
That's correct, yeah.
Thank you. Martin?
Yeah, just looking at policy 6, where there's the and where possible, nature-based solutions are preferred over hard engineering solutions, and comprehensive area-wide measures are preferred over site-specific solutions. That, I mean, it would be wonderful if we could have an area-wide solution for the entire, a particular bay or a particular region or the whole district. But from what I've learned over the last 4 years, so many things are site-specific that it seems a little bit of a, I don't know, it may be something that would be extremely hard to actually implement area-wide measures. But that's just a thought.
So area-wide measures you have to do through a district planning process. It's almost impossible to do that through a resource consent process. which, as you say, becomes site specific, and then you have to take into account cumulative adverse effects. But dealing with cumulative adverse effects is almost impossible unless you've got a planning process, a district plan that makes those calls for you. And a district planning process is years and years to get it through the process. So until we actually do a comprehensive planning process, that it really doesn't add very much. And this policy pretty much repeats what's already in the New Zealand Coastal Policy Statement, what's in the regional policy statement already. So the overarching policy framework already basically contains these sorts of directions.
And would that potentially make it, if someone comes up with a hard engineering solution, would this policy cause our council to go back to them and say, actually, we need to look at it, you need to look at a nature-based proposal, or dismiss a nature-based proposal first before you're allowed to do the hard engineering?
Well, under the RMA, there's provisions that says you have to look at alternatives in any assessment of environmental effects on a site-specific process. So we would have done that anyway.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Just one additional comment there, that the problem with site-specific solutions is the edges. That's where the issues arise. The edges, you build a seawall that protects the land behind it, but the land beside it isn't protected, and the edges can accelerate erosion rather than protect.
As we've seen again and again and again in Buffalo Beach, for example, and other places. Thank you. Okay, any further questions? Any further discussion? Okay, thank you. Could I get a mover and a seconder, please, for why is that on? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Through the chair, you already have Councillor Morrissey and Councillor Connell as mover and seconder. If you just wanted to include the rest of the clauses to put the motion.
You happy to do that? Okay. All right, all those in favour? Thank you. Go for it. Thank you very much. And you're here for the next item as well, item 2.5, submission on the proposed Waikato Regional Coastal Plan. I'll get a mover and a seconder, please, to receive the motion. Peter and Delhi, thank you. Why have we got Kirsten's name on here? Is Kirsten participating?
No, first year.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
First year, Shilford and Leslie.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you. Aileen. Time.
Yep. So by comparison to the previous item, this one's really, really important, but it's also only the beginning of a process. So this is the first submission to a process that's likely to take years. Following this, there'll be a further submissions process where they used to be called it cross submissions, but I think it's now further submissions where we'll get to have a look at everyone else's submissions and make another submission on what they've had to say before it goes into a hearing process and likely appeals, in which case this is a foot in the door to the appeal process. So that's super important. But this is the start of a long road ahead of us. And at that, I'll hand over to Bruce and Leslie.
Thanks.
Thank you, Aileen.
Bruce.
Well, that's the document there. You may have seen it online, but that's the proposed statement, proposed coastal plan. And this draft submission has been put together with some good assistance from the community boards, which both Leslie and I attended earlier on in the September-October period. But essentially, we're seeking approval for the submission to be lodged, which has to be lodged by the 14th of November. The submission is the attachment B, and the staff and the community boards have provided comment on various parts of it, which I've framed up into that document there in front of you. And we've addressed the parts that we support or oppose or do support in part, and stated the recommendations that we wish for the regional council to adopt. Of course, there'll be other parties that make submissions, and And so ultimately, at the hearing, the commissioners will look at all submissions and make a decision on what's included in the coastal plan. I probably don't have to say it, but the area of land that this covers is from Mean High Water Springs out to 12 miles. So it's beyond our district, but there are activities that we undertake that have an effect on that particular area covered by the regional plan. The more interesting matters that we're concerned about are generally, and I've listed them in the cover reports, but it's aquaculture and the disturbances and ecosystems, public access, and structures and occupational space, which really are the ones that council probably have a greater concern about than other activities, and those are the ones that I've particularly addressed in the draft submission. One role in the eco section, ecology, rule 7. Ari, are you able to bring that up?
Page 179 on the agenda.
Yeah, page 179. But in conversation with Dean Allen yesterday, we looked at amending that provision. And Dean, are you listening in? No, he's not.
And through the chair, would you like me to provide an update?
Dean, could you go through an explanation of the changes we've recommended to that rule 7, please?
Yep. So thank you, Council, and thank you, Mayor Lan. Just between the exchanges that have been held between Bruce and I and other members of staff, it looks like we haven't picked up the exact wording we wanted for Eco R7. And so within the rule Eco R7, point 6 requires that mangrove seedlings can be cut, but what it's saying is to remove all of the seedlings from the CMA within the same tide cycle. Now, over a number of years, there has been feedback from community groups at Whangamata, Tairua and Apotri and others about seedling removal being quite difficult, and bending over and picking the seedlings up is considered to be a bit of a barrier. Given my background, I am aware of technical advice provided from NIWA that seedlings in small amounts would not cause things like algal blooms and the things that policy folk may be concerned about. So the proposed wording we're asking for is to allow seedlings to be cut and removed in low densities. And we're asking for the regional council staff to define what that might look like, or to limit the amount of people that are undertaking the activity, again, in a way to try and limit the potential adverse effects there. And so we've just proposed some wording that Ari's put up on screen that will try and achieve that outcome. And the reason for that is because of the feedback that we've heard from a number of groups over a number of years.
Dean, a question, if I may. Whangamata Harbour Care, does this line up with what they've been asking for?
Yeah, good question. Yes, it does. This lines up exactly with what Whangamata Harbour Care and the other groups that undertake these types of activities on their weekends are asking for. Okay.
And just for my own clarity, in the hard copy I've got, that items A, B, and C are different from what's on the screen. So the one that's on the screen is the one that is proposed, not this one. So that's been updated. Okay.
Yes, that's correct. And that was some work we did yesterday. So that's why it's up on the screen rather than in the order paper. But it only is specific to that particular rule, Eco R7. The rest of the submission, draft submission, is as stated in the order paper.
Thank you. And my last question is, I'm slightly confused, and it's probably just my lack of knowledge about the coastal plan, but this is not strictly coast. So how does it, because the Whangamata area is up the river, basically. Is that covered by the coastal plan?
Yes, it will be covered by the coastal plan. There's an agreement made 1993, was it? Between the regional council, territorial authorities, and DOC about where the coastal margin is on a river, and this will affect mangroves downstream of that coastal boundary, that where it crosses the river. Will I explain that clearly? Do you want to?
Yeah, so it's basically estuaries are included.
Okay.
Estuaries and open sea. Sorry. Estuaries and open water out to the 12-mile limits are covered. There is a complication when you come to a river mouth. So so just take it the estuaries are in, but when you get to a river that comes into an estuary, there will be on a map in the regional coastal plan and in our district plan a line, and this side is coastal marine area and this side is river.
Okay.
And that's the jurisdictional boundary.
So in Whitianga, for example, the same rule would apply? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Just as an example, at the Tairua River, the coastal marina area boundary is approximately up by Duck Creek. It's quite some distance in from the from where you might anticipate the coastal boundary to be.
Right. Thank you.
I think you can basically assume that if it's salt water or brackish water, which is sort of half salt and half fresh, it will be applied. The coastal plan will apply.
Right. Thank you. Peter, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering what that looked like for the Kauranga Rua. Where the line is for the Kauranga Rua.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I
Okay.
certainly have a map that I could provide for you to.
That's right. Okay. And secondly, and I hate to do this, but could in A, we just change it to where fewer than 10 persons rather than where less than 10 persons, please.
Yes, that can be done.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? There being none, and subject to those changes that are proposed, I'd like to request that the people who, or ask whether the people who moved and seconded the motion are happy to include the rest of the motion.
Yep, I am.
Thank you. All right. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Done. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Leslie. Okay, item 3.1. Oh, Gary, did you have a question?
No,
Oh, thank you. Ghost hand. Thank you. Okay, Ed, you're in the hot seat again. This
Thank
is
you.
becoming a regular thing. It is not your fault. It's not your fault.
It is becoming a regular thing, and I have to apologise for that, but such is weather events. If I can take the report as read, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll get a mover and a seconder to receive the report.
I'll move it.
Please,
Second.
John and Delly. Thank you. All right. Having taken the report as read, are there any questions of Ed?
Just one, Lynn, and it's only for clarification because I can never figure it out yet. The FAR subsidy seems to fluctuate depending on where you're looking at this paper. What do we don't just get a standard 71% or 59%. What happens there?
our basic FAR rate is 51%. Every year, for emergency works, it resets to 51%, no matter what rate we had the previous year. When our expenditure each year exceeds 10% of our normal maintenance budget, then it increases to 71%.
Thank you. As soon as you started explaining, I remembered. That's exactly how it works. Thank you.
But it isn't that simple, is it? It isn't that simple. It's significantly more complicated than that.
Can I just ask a question? Terry and myself have talked about this, and it does get back to this FAR rating, and how has it changed from 91 in June, then to 71, and is it now 51? So what is it?
The 91% covers the response to the cyclone events that we had in 2021-22. That is a emergency rate, which was specifically for that event. Any storm event outside of that reverts back to normal 51, 71%. And it's unlikely that we'll get 91% again, unless we get something significant like the twin cyclones we had previously. So as I said previously, every year it resets to 51%. So what we have to do each year is we look at the amount of expenditure that we've done for emergency works up to that year. At the end of that financial year, there is a cutoff. It then resets back to 51%. If we have already committed and got approved funding above the 10%, then we automatically go up to the 71% once we've spent that 51%. Sounds complex. In fact, the best way I've heard of it being described is just a series of buckets, and you fill the bucket up to the 51%. Once that's done, you go to a 71% bucket, and you keep filling that one up until it either fills, and you've spent the money, or you start a new 51% bucket in the next financial year.
Can I ask, is there, I heard Scott Simpson talking on the radio yesterday, talking about the finance minister who'd done the recovery and resilience one in the budget, and there seems to be 10.7 billion, and it seems to be part of it could well be used for this sort of situation. Have we made any application for this money?
Aileen might have a comment on that.
So the answer is yes, we have made some application for money, but it's complicated in which bucket we've actually applied for. So I wonder if we could come back and talk to you about this at another date, because there's quite a lot of complexity in here. So we've put in an application for hardship for the current financial year for the works that we had planned.
But it looks like we, as I see it on the face of it, I'm not sure how much we're going to have to pay and how much we're going to get contributed to.
So this is for a different storm. So the paper in front of you is for a storm that happened post Cyclone Gabrielle. So whatever the payment arrangements for Cyclone Gabrielle are, this is different. This is the new financial year with a new set of circumstances. And so the information in front of you should be exactly right.
This is July, a storm event from 21st of July last year, Gary.
Yeah.
So
this
financial year. So in some ways we've got to separate them out. Have I got that right? Yeah. Okay. And the other thing that I think probably needs to be understood, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, is that when we've got FAR rate funding, it does not apply for any build back better work. It is reinstatement of previous condition. Have I got that right?
Yes, that's correct. It's purely to return to the previous level of service. There is no improvement to the road or the driving conditions.
Which presents problems for us, because if we're trying to go forward rather than just reinstate and wait for the next one. But there are exceptions. We can provide business cases to apply for additional far rate funding for a specific Build Back Better project. Is that the case?
Firstly, what I would state is when we do the repairs, we do the repairs to current standards. So that in itself is building back better. We are repairing the road and giving it an increased design life beyond what it originally had. There are methods to apply for funding for recovery improvements or improvements to the road network. And I believe that this may be the funding that Scott Simpson was referring to. This is separate to the emergency works response funding.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you.
But
Okay.
clearly, roads are so important for Coromandel. We have to make sure they are resilient. And you heard Gary Taylor talking yesterday. Some of the things they've done have assisted in stopping the flooding. We've just got to build so we don't have to have continual problems.
Thank you, Gary. Yep, you're absolutely right. So we've got the option 2 in front of us. I'm going to oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say I'm happy to move option 2.
Yep, thank you. So Councillor Gary Percival has moved option 2. Could we have seconded, please? Councillor Morrissey, all those in favour? Right, thank you. That is carried. Complicated stuff, and I am conscious of that, and it is very, very important for this district. Thank you, Ed. Won't be the last time we see you in the seat, I'm sure. Too early.
Fantastic photos.
Okay, where are we at on our run sheet? Are we at morning tea yet? Okay, item 4.1, local government funding agency. Fairly straightforward, this one. We are assigning proxy. And Donna will talk to this. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please, for receiving the motion? Martin? I'll second it.
Okay.
Don will second it. Thank you. Donna, anything you need to add to what's in front of us?
No, just this is what we do every year. As a shareholder of LGFA, that is our responsibility to vote at their basically annual meeting, the AGM. We usually do that through a proxy, which is what this paper describes. And yes, that's basically what it is. The shareholder council is made up of a bunch of obviously shareholding councils. Our representative is Western Bay Plenty, and they do a lot of work behind the scenes so that they can advise all the shareholding councils on, you know, what decisions that they think are appropriate to make at these AGMs. So basically, this paper is really just endorsing the recommendations.
It's a pretty amazing stipend they get for what they do.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would disagree with that. All right. Any further questions or comments? All right. So we'll put the motion. Do we have a mover and a seconder for the body of the motion?
I'll move it.
John?
Through the chair, we do have a
okay.
mover and seconder.
All those in favour? Thank you. Thank you, Donna. You stay there. Oh no, Hayden. Want to stay? Item 4.2, Treasury Policy for Adoption. Thank you, Hayden.
I'll take the report as read. This is to adopt the Treasury policy. We brought it to the workshop on the 10th of October, where we had Brett Johansson present to council, basically outline some minor changes to the Treasury policy. We have to review this every 3 years. And yeah, so it's just adopting it.
Thank you, Hayden. So councillors have had a chance to look at this. We heard the report from PwC. Peter, you weren't there for that. Did you have any questions of Hayden specifically on that? Please.
Hayden, I'm a mere mortal, and I don't dwell in the obviously up in the ether where whoever does this stuff dwells. So it's very technical, and I found it difficult to kind of understand. To understand and pull out what I need to pull out of it. So I think I've got a few questions just of reassurance, if that's okay. So my first one is, do you live and breathe this policy? So if I were to give you an NCEA exam on this policy,
yeah,
would you pass with flying colours? In other words, you know it inside out and what have you.
Yeah, I hope I would. I couldn't recite it word for word, but we refer to it all the time. Obviously to manage our debt and sort of interest rate positions. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you're living and breathing this. Fantastic. Yes. My second question is this a conservative policy rather than a sort of see how much money we can make sort of policy?
Yeah. So I think it's definitely a conservative a policy. I think if you look at page 224, there's a series of benchmarks that we have. LGFA set a series of benchmarks, and obviously council sets them, and we've set them lower than sort of LGFA, so we've taken more of a conservative one. One, for instance, is net external debt as a percentage of total revenue. The LGFA's got that you can have 175%, whereas council set it at 150, so we've set it at a lower benchmark than sort of what LGFA is saying.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd say we take a conservative approach.
Thank you for that. Third one, does the policy ensure that we meet all our legal and regulatory obligations, that we're not going to get caught out? So that all those legal and regulatory is all covered in this policy.
So we work in with PwC. So they help us review this policy to make sure that it does meet all of the sort of requirements. Our Treasury advisor, Brett Johansson, does it for a number of councils across sort of New Zealand. So yes, it does meet our legal requirements. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. And my final question is, does this policy ensure that we're able to borrow money when we need, and if we need to borrow money,
Yep. Yeah. So we can always. We've got quite a bit of. We've got headroom within our policy. I think, from top of my head, we're sitting at so it's 60 odd percent. So we've got 60-70%. So we've got headroom there where we can borrow. We could always come to council to go outside of policy. I mean, if we had to. I think we've got quite a bit of headroom at the moment, so we don't have to do anything like that. But there are times when, like for instance, we have made the adjustment to the current policy, but previously we used to measure against debt forecasts. Like we have a debt forecast that we measure against, and if we knew, for instance, that was going to change dramatically, we would come to council and we would, say, look, we don't think we should measure to policy. For instance, we're going to lose all our Three Waters debt or whatever, So we're actively working with Price Waterhouse to sort of come to really sort of check that we're within policy, and if there is a recommendation to go outside of policy, come to council and ask if that's, if we can, basically.
Okay.
So we don't just follow the policy blindly, because there's times when, there's economic sort of things that are happening that, it makes sense probably to go outside of policy. We haven't encountered that before, but yeah, we're constantly working with PwC, who they've got a whole team that, check interest rates, and they follow interest rates, they follow markets. They're really, really good advisors in that space. Yeah.
So thank you very much for those insurances, and I'm happy. Could I recommend when we go around this loop in 3 years' time?
Yep.
If you want to make a note.
Yeah.
I think it'd be helpful in the report for us to be told what's important about this policy, the fact that it protects us all, just the headline things. I think would just help those of us who are mortal.
Yeah. And
Thank you.
Brett is quite good to listen to too. He's he gives a whole spiel. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Hayden.
Yeah.
One of the questions that came up, and it's something that I'd like to ask you to keep us appraised of, is the opportunity or the whether council should get a credit rating at any stage, and what the advantages or disadvantages might be. I think the advice from PricewaterhouseCoopers is that there's no need for us to do that. The LGFA have their own internal credit ratings, and some councils do, and there doesn't seem to be any need for us to do that. But if you could keep us appraised of that as we go forward and these reports come through, that would be really helpful. Thank you. Any other questions of Hayden? No? So we are looking at adopting the Treasury report. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please, Peter and Delhi? Thank you. All those in favour? That's done. Thank you, Hayden. Much appreciated. Hayden? Well, I think we should. Myself.
Don't want to go over 2 hours again, my friend.
Hang in there, Gary, just for a second. I'd like to do. All right, so we can carry on, do the Chief Executive report, Merrill report, because as Delhi said, we had a late morning tea. Get those done under our belt. Happy to do that. All right, thank you. Okay, well, hand it over to Aileen.
So Hayden's in hot seat, so he
Yeah.
may as well stay there for the finance item.
Yep. Cool. Just a summary, we're basically pretty much on budget. It's really early days. It's only 2 months in. Typically with the phasing of expenditure, sometimes you can be under and sometimes you can be over, just depending when when expense comes in. I guess the 2 areas probably to watch are roading, which we've got storm damage expenses coming in. There was a carry forward report which did indicate and signed off a lot of that carry forward OPEX. That was just around, we just didn't get it done in the last financial year. It's just a timing issue, really. So there's that for roading. And then in wastewater was the other one. There's a desludging program where they're just sort of ahead of schedule. We borrow for the desludging schedule because the considered benefits over a period of time. It doesn't meet the capitalisation rules, but it does have a sort of a expected life benefit, I guess. And so that is one of the few things that we do borrow for. So, yeah.
Thank you, Hayden. Aileen, anything else to add to your report at this stage?
Yep. So
I'm allowed to ask.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Of Hayden?
Is that okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
Hayden, just so this report is August, so it's 2 months into our year.
Yes.
Right. So it's right at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
Just looking on page 254, the commentary around fees and charges. So we've had lower than expected bag sales.
Yes.
We won't be having any more bag sales. So
Yeah.
that deficit we're going to be carrying forward right through the year, that deficit of sales around
We'll-
that.
We'll have tag sales, so it depends on really what happens with our tag sales moving forward.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, so we had bag sales up to
End of August.
end of August, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
Then we've got tag sales that kick in, which are really the same, but it will come down to the demand for those tags. So it really comes down to what happens over that holiday period. That tends to be the real.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, that will be one to watch, definitely. Yep.
Okay, thank you. And on page 258, just the commentary around consents. So we're seeing a drop off in consent applications.
Yep.
So, well, I guess there's two questions around that. One is, the financial implication, but two, is that a early indicator of a bigger problem?
It's probably a past indicator. So what the team are also saying, and Brian's not here, but what he's also telling me is we've seen an upsurge in pre-application advice. So that's usually the sign of a surge ahead of us. How far ahead, I'm not sure, but what that's probably showing us is we've just had a downturn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And sorry, the other area was development contributions are a bit behind, and they can be quite peaky and troughy depending on development that's happening in the area, really. So,
Hayden, can you just talk to us briefly, page 254, this deficit number of 16.1? Is that a timing thing? Could you just?
so 16.1 is what we've budgeted. That's in the operating area. So this is just looking at our P&L. So what happens is like the big one there will be depreciation. So we charge the full depreciation, but below the line we're going to back the spike out. So that's that. The other area is we have NZTA. So there's a budgeting assumption that says we write back the NZTA portion because we're going to get funding for that. So that's really the write backs really for those things. So that's in our operating sort of.
So that's a phasing issue.
It's just looking at the P&L, because what we have is we've got our comprehensive income statement, and then we have a FIS, which is a full funding thing. So below that surplus line is how all the funding sort of happens. So that's basically what we're saying there is that, we've charged full depreciation per what we should, but we're going to write some of it back. We're not going to take all of it to the financial reserve that it belongs to, because we've agreed that would only take up, what the actual.
Without wanting to get too complicated, I wonder whether there's an opportunity to put a very brief commentary about that into the notes.
Okay.
So that we get some insight onto where that sits and just exactly what you've explained. Thank you. Okay,
It's all on the finances or right?
Any other questions for Hayden?
Okay, so Lagoimas continue. This is quite a big risk area. If we don't get our Lagoimas right, there's significant risk about going ombudsman complaints, which then ties us up in knots as we have to work through process with ombudsman. So we've actually just put some additional resourcing into this, which we reported through to the Risk Insurance Committee. But in putting that additional resourcing in, there's assumptions around charging for some of the Lagoimas. So you may have people come to you complaining that we're charging, and that's because we've had to increase our resourcing in that area. And some of the requests we're getting are just huge and open-ended, and we need to recover something in that area. You'll see we've increased the reporting from the customer services into the Chief Executive's report as requested by, I think it was Councillor Terry. Quite a bit more information in there, and you'll note where there's a comment there about we're still working on closing the loop. And as we heard yesterday, it's now possible to do that, but we're just working on what does that messaging going to look like, and how do we how do we put in place measures such that the person then immediately doesn't pick up the phone through to customer services to ask, well,
I'm sorry, look, I'm in the council meeting. I'm doing it AVL. Sorry about that.
Gary, can you mute, please? Oh, sorry. It's been done at this end. Thank you.
Okay, so the other significance is under the recovery update. You'll see we have obtained some further funding for social and community recovery for 479K. And we'll get a report in next report through about what that is and what's being done with that. We're progressing quite well with workforce planning, and Stephen Town is chairing that group with the central agencies. And of importance is attachment C to the report, which I think is possibly the first time this has been in the public arena. So this is the simple map outlining the priorities in the investment case that Waka Kotahi have put through to their board and will be heading through to government. So that seems like quite an important map that's now in the public arena. Continuing to work with Cathedral Cove, the team are working with DOC. We're now co-funding out of our recovery work a comms person who we will use for our summer work. And DOC are using inside the tent also in terms of comms coming out of department.
Yes, I just had a question around that, talking about the damage to the walking access will not be reinstated this coming summer because of the risk to life on both the beach and inside the archway is intolerable. It appears to me from looking at media stories and things on the social media side of things that the message that people are understanding is that the problem is with the access way, the walkway part with so many slips. And so there's a lot of commentary around, oh, just fix the track up for goodness sake. But this is saying it's not the track at all. It's basically risk to life on the beach and inside the archway is intolerable. So there seems a real, and I know council's message has been exactly what's there, but overwhelming stuff in social media and in conventional media is bits because of the walking track. And so people are saying, oh, I could put a new track in there for, so I don't know how we combat that.
Yeah, and that's partly why we're supporting with the communications support. Yeah, but it is both the walkway in and the archway, as I understand it. And archways are a coastal feature that collapse and turn into what they call stacks. So that's what they do over time, and you see plenty of examples around the coastline where that's happened. Yeah, and the use of the word intolerable, here we go. This is the same word that was used in that natural hazards policy. So here it's being used in a health and safety context, and without a doubt the experiences we've had at Whakaari and other disasters around the country have informed DOC's use of that word. Yeah. So.
Oh, Rika, sorry. Are you okay if Rika jumps in there?
So my question actually relates to the solid waste transition, and you talk about the numbers of different calls and things you've had. The broken food scraps bins. I've had quite a bit of feedback about people that have had issues with that. Is there a fundamental issue with the bins? Are we looking at this, or
I'll refer that to Mo?
I'm not aware of any issues with the bins, although there have been a few cases where bins have got damaged. But if people can provide feedback, I'm happy to look at it, like if they're having issues from an end user point of view. But we have not been reported of any issues with the bins as such.
you okay? Sorry. So I don't know. My understanding, my feedback that I've had is it's been about the truck that fixed them up has been damaging the bins. But is that not what has been fed back?
That feedback has not come to me, but I'm happy to have a look if that's what's causing it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
So the only other thing I wanted to touch on was the Te Riki Tahi Sugarloaf Wharf. And you'll see that we are still waiting. So when I say we, I'm a director, John, Councillor Morrissey and I are directors on Sugarloaf company. So we're still expecting a decision from the High Court sometime soon. And in parallel, the company is also proceeding with the early contractor involvement and procurement of that. They've also appointed a professional project director, and John Galbraith is appointed. John will be, when he commences, will be fresh from building a harbour in a Puriki. And so he has been appointed to direct the project. Between Donna and I, we're keeping our hats separate. So I'm a director, so that means Donna is the shareholders representative. So we're just keeping a clear line between us on that. The other thing too is this also links to the coastal plan, and you saw in our submission we were supportive of the aquaculture consents and the additional aquaculture space. And the good news is Parihauraki now have their finfish consent, and it went through without appeal, which is amazing. So what that's doing is really showing the case for Sugarloaf, and it's showing that there's significant need going into the future. The other aspect that's important here is the Blue Highway work that's being done under the recovery banner, funded by the recovery money, which looks at Sugarloaf as a potential for transport resilience, both in an emergency and both in peacetime. So there's a real case there around the wharf and about getting on with constructing it and its role into the future. And lastly, I just wanted to touch on that fantastic video you'll see down the bottom there, project video of Kopu. I've had that many comments from out and about how fantastic that was. And this staff did a brilliant job putting that together with our councillor. And we're keen to see a bit more of that into the future with our projects.
I just have a question about that. So we're producing videos that are starring our elected members, but the first one only featured Councillor Revolt.
I apologise for the choice of words.
Martin, did you have a question? Your name's on the list.
Oh yes, sorry. Yes, around that Sugarloaf. So, and this might be a dumb question. There's no indication from the new government. I mean, that PGF money is absolutely locked in. Money's in the bank or on the way, type of thing. There's nothing that could potentially happen to that.
So I attended a meeting with Harry McKidy and Stephen Hands, and we went to visit our local MP, who's our local MP, Scott Simpson, who's obviously now in government. And we questioned whether the PGF money was safe. And the response we got was, if it's contracted, it's safe.
If it's contracted,
it's safe. It is. It's yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Doesn't address the potential shortfall, which is another phase, another discussion. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Aileen. Any further questions of Aileen on the Chief Executive report? Okay. I'd like to move that. Would you like to move that your report?
I can't.
Oh, you can't? Yes, you can. It's your report. All right. Seconder, please. All those in favour? Aye. Thank you. Thank you, Hayden. Right. I've lost track of where we are. Oh, mayoral report. This will be very, very quick. And then we have some lunch. Okay, mayoral report. I'll take this as read. This is just a brief snapshot of items.
Yep, 270.
270 in your.
The authorization for that is attached to your report.
I'll flag that at the beginning. Yeah, thank you. 270. I say, so there's two parts to this. There is the basically a report back to councillors and the community of the work that I've been doing and the engagements and official meetings and things that I've had. There's also a request to authorise reimbursement of international air travel for Councillor Connell. Could I get a mover and a seconder for the report to be
I'll move that.
received, please? A seconder. Thank you, Martin. Okay. So any questions on the items in the report apart from the reimbursement?
Apart from the reimbursement.
Apart from the reimbursement. Okay. So in the reimbursement, this is an opportunity, I think, that's been presented, and it came a little bit out of left field, but it does represent a significant opportunity for Councillor Connell to represent us. It was done as a private initiative, but I personally think it's got a lot of merit and a lot of potential benefits for personal development in terms of the councillor's work, but also for our council. But I'm conscious that the reimbursement for this is something that under the sensitive expenditure policy has to go through council, and so I've put it in here and invite councillors to ask questions and to consider this as part of the resolution.
Yeah, if I could speak first, that'd be fine. Len? Yep. Listen, I totally support the initiative here and the council paying the $1,700. It's an insignificant amount on the scheme of things. I would be a lot more comfortable if we had some sort of policy around this sort of expenditure for members, which gave us some more guidelines. But as one-off coming out of the blue like it has, I'm more than happy to support Delia in her endeavours. I'm sure will be a richer council for her experiences, and she'll be able to come back and relay the things she's learned. And if you take the time to read her proposal, she's heavily involved in so many things, and this is just another feather in her cap, which will make her a better councillor around this table. So I support it.
Thank you, John. So just picking up briefly on the point that you made, there is, I have had some thoughts about bringing to council a proposal for professional development funding for councillors to be able to support the work that they bring to council and the work that they do. This is something that'll happen a bit further down. It's not finalised yet, but I think you make a very good point, and this could be part of that. Robin.
Well, two things. First of all, Delia, I think you probably should have declared a conflict of interest for this, because I don't believe that you should be able to vote on this.
No.
Okay, cool, yeah. I'm uncomfortable in saying this, but I'm not happy to support because we don't have a policy, and because this is yeah, it's sort of been sprung on us, and we didn't, we weren't able to sort of say, yes, we agree with this, we think that this is going to be a good thing for the council. I think that if we're going to pay for something, we should at least have the chance to be able to input into it. But the other thing that I'm really aware of, and this is the main reason, is a reason of equity, in that we had five councillors who wanted to go to the LGNZ conference. Only 3 of us were able to go, and I'm extremely grateful that I was one of those people, but we did have 2 that were turned down, and I believe that part of that was a financial constraint. So I'm sort of uncomfortable with the idea that we had 2 people missing out on something that would arguably fantastic for this. But also I think that I have to say no to this at this point, because I was extremely voluble about the fact that the LGNZ conference was such a valuable experience for me that I'm happily prepared to pay for it for myself to go next year, so that the pool of money remains intact for those councillors who do want to go. So that's where I'm going to be sitting.
Thank you, Robin. Any other thoughts? Martin.
So there's not an official, and people bandied around this idea of, well, every year we have $2,000, and that's what previous mayor had said at her discretion. But I think very little of it was spent, from what I can remember. And I'm perfectly happy for the mayor or the chief exec or whoever to be approving those particular PLD type things. I guess for this, we're being asked to, because it's an international travel expense. So in a sense, basically we're being asked to approve PLD because it's got that international travel
Yes,
thing
because of the
associated with
international
it.
travel
So
component.
yeah, I support both my colleague, Councillor Morrissey, around the potential benefits, but I also support my councillor colleague, Sinclair, who has said that, yeah, that the unclarity around I mean, there's not even a policy, so yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable with that, but I'd still like you to go.
I think what it
Maybe you and I could both leave the room.
what it has done is highlighted that, as you say, lack of policy, that little gap in there where we see opportunities for councillors to attend seminars or conferences, which we've seen from the Christchurch LGNZ conference, which do provide significant opportunities for personal development and for directly bringing things back to council, which I think have enormous benefit. But we don't have a policy that covers it. So it has flagged a gap. The timing probably isn't great, and because it's offshore travel, we've got to apply the sensitive expenditure policy that we have. So it's something I think we need to have a discussion about further on. Let's do that. We haven't got the opportunity now, so this is just specifically on this subject. Deli, was there anything you wanted to add in terms of filling out the picture on this particular event?
I think my proposal is quite clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Deli. Okay.
Just one last thing, just if I can, please. Rob and I admire your speech over there. Not easy to make in front of a fellow councillor that's requesting this sort of thing. But just one further thing to think about, and that is that LGNZ conference, which we were lucky enough to go on, and there were constraints because of the money available. And yes, we got a lot out of that. And yes, you, me, and I believe Deli are prepared to pay our way next time round so that others can go. So I think the councillor to my right here, Deli, she is prepared to pay her way on that occasion, you know, and I think this is one off, not to be used as a what's the word for it? A precedent. Thank you very much. God, I couldn't get that. Nothing to be used as a precedent for the future. We'll be better guided in the future, I'm sure, when we get some guidelines policy from council. I am prepared to win this one, like I said, and support Deli.
Yeah, can I just add one more thing to that? And that, you know, clearly this is a matter of public record, but during the weekend I did sort of sound out a few people that I know in the community and said, hey, in this situation, you know, where the travel isn't, yeah, hasn't been pre-approved by council, and you know, this has sort of been sprung us at the last minute almost. You know, is this a sentiment that the community would support in terms of development? And the people that I asked said they wouldn't support it. So I am actually also reflecting the views of people in my community. So, and I asked them if it would change if it was me, because I'm their favourite councillor, and they said no.
So just to be clear, the opportunity presented itself, and it was a long shot. And Deli took this on as a personal initiative right from the start. Was clear that, look, it's a long shot. There's only 5 people in Australia and New Zealand that will be accepted for this. I'm prepared to pay for it myself. And it was my initiative to bring it to council to reimburse. So it was, as I said, a long shot and personal initiative, but I think it's one that deserves support until, as an interim thing, until we get a policy in place. So I'm going to be very clear that I think this deserves support, and I would like to give it my endorsement. Thank you. Rika.
Yeah, for all the reasons that have been mentioned, it feels a little bit uncomfortable. We don't have a policy, and I understand that, and it has come out of left field. I would perhaps feel, so I am supportive, but potentially not of maybe the whole amount. But had it been something that council was going out and saying, okay, this is happening and this is something that we need to know about, and we really need to get someone there and on the ground and be part of this. But as you say, it came out of left field, and that to me, and the spending of public money feels a little bit uncomfortable, the lack of a policy. So I would be supportive. Initially, it was taken on, councillor was prepared to contribute and pay for that. So I think that we could somehow meet in the middle, and potentially support, but I don't know that I could support the whole amount.
Thank you, Rick. So, are you proposing an amendment?
I don't know if councillor River wants to speak, and then maybe I can think about that.
The resolution as it stands doesn't actually have an amount in it, but the report mentions plus 1,700. So it would be actually good to have the
An amount.
an amount in there, because at the moment it is quite ambiguous, and I'm unhappy with that too. Because presumably because you've already paid, you know how much it cost. So
Okay. Okay. So I think we can clarify that by saying the reimbursement amount is $1,700 for airfares, and all the other on the ground expenses are covered by the conference themselves and Delhi. So, so what we can do is under item 2, we can look at a reimbursement payment, which is either $1,700 or a proportion of that, in line with what Councillor Gary Percival has said. And I have to share with you that I've had an offer to contribute from personal expenses from another councillor who said, look, I'll put my hand in my pocket for part of it, just because I think Delhi deserves support on this, which I think is a very, very generous offer. And I think that's, something I'd be prepared to do as well. So what I might ask, we're going to say $1,700, but I'm going to ask Rekha if you would put another number on there that this council can consider. I'm sorry to do that, but. Otherwise, we're voting on $1,700.
Yeah, and this is precisely why, yeah, a policy is needed. If we get into the point of saying, all right, well, we'll pay for you to get from here to Singapore, but Singapore to Japan is, this is just getting more uncomfortable for me.
Yeah, I'm prepared to put a motion that we pay the $1,700 in full. I'm not prepared to bargain or negotiate. I don't think that's smart or necessary. And as I just said to you across the room, you might as well get hung for a sheep as a lamb, guys. If you're worried about perception, you're going to get hung either way for $1,000 or $1,700, and I think it's $1,700 worth of value here. So I'm putting that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Morrissey. So we go to item 2, authorise reimbursement of $1,700 for international air travel to Councillor Connell. You've proposed that motion. Are you happy with the wording of that?
I am.
We get a seconder for that? Martin, all those in favour?
Aye. Where's Gary?
Gary, are you with us?
Anybody out there?
I think I'll abstain on this.
That's
all right. So we've got 3 of those against and 1 abstention. Where does that leave us? And I'm sorry, Delhi, this is.
Through the chair, you could use your casting.
I know it is. I know, but we are required to do it by resolution of council under the sensitivity. So I know it is.
So through the chair, you can utilise your casting vote.
I did. So, well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1 abstention. Okay,
Casting.
so that carries it.
If,
All right.
if you wish to continue.
Yep.
Okay.
So the motion is carried. Thank you. And we will look at discussing a policy that avoids us going through this process.
Excuse me.
Sorry,
Did,
Gary.
did Delhi vote on this?
No.
I couldn't see. Because that's 1, 2. Well,
Have we got the numbers right? Yeah.
So Gary, because John was pointing, but not not gesticulating wildly. So Peter, Ricker and myself voted against, and Len, John and whatever his name is, John and Martin voted for. And so you abstained. Len used his casting vote, and so it's carried.
so the mayor's had 2 votes. Okay.
Thank you. All
Can
right.
I have my recorded? Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for your contribution. I'm going to propose that we adjourn for lunch. Thank you. Yes. Okay, we're good to go. All right, so we're on item 1.4, conflict of interest. I'd like to ask councillors if anybody has a conflict of interest to declare.
I would like to declare a conflict of interest for item 5.2.
Thank you, councillor Connell. Okay, moving past item 1.4, we're going to go to item 5.2.
We need a mover and a seconder for that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Through the chair, we do not need a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Connell only needs to declare that.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you. So item 5.2, be noted that councillor Connell has left the room, and we're looking at the item 2 in 5.2, which is authorises reimbursement payment of international air travel for councillor Connell. I'm going to.
Through the chair, what we are doing right now is that we're going back to revisit it because we have received a conflict of interest. So what we would like to do is revoke the decision that we have made.
Okay, so the motion is to revoke the decision.
Correct.
Get a mover and a seconder, please.
I'll move that.
John and Martin, all those in favour? Thank you. The decision is revoked.
Through the chair, it's you now have the ability to reconsider the item.
So we're now reconsidering item 2, authorise reimbursement of international air travel for councillor Connell. Okay. Is there any further discussion on this? Okay, there being none, I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder, please, for item 2.
I will move that.
So John and Martin, mover and seconder. I'll put the vote. All those in favour?
Through the
Aye.
chair, could you
Okay.
please just state that for everyone that's involved, what you would like to do? Or would you like to authorise reimbursement of the payment?
Okay, so I'll read the item.
Correct.
So we're in 5.2 Merrill report. Item 2 authorises reimbursement payment of $1,700 of international air travel for councillor Connell to attend the conference as detailed in the Merrill report. I have a mover in councillor Morrissey. I have a seconder in councillor Rodley. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against?
It's and myself as well.
Okay.
Are you going against instead of abstaining now, Gary?
In fact, that the mayor used this casting vote was the thing that alerted me. I thought I hadn't realised what had happened over in voting. I'm some distance away, so I'm quite entitled to vote as I wish, and I'm voting no.
You are, councillor Gottlieb, you are entitled. So your vote is now a no.
Correct.
Okay, so that gives us 4 no and 2 in favour. My vote doesn't count in that case, because we don't have the numbers.
Yeah, that's fine. That's how it works.
What was that, Martin? Well, no, but including me, but it's not, an,
Then you are entitled to an opinion, even if it's not the casting vote.
okay. So I vote in favour, but it still leaves us 4 against and 3 in favour.
Yep.
So the vote is not carried.
Through the chair, the motion's lost.
The motion is lost. Thank you. Thank you, team. I appreciate your patience.
That's the end of the, is that the end of the meeting? Because I've got an important call to make.
We're about to close the meeting. Thank you, councillor Gottlieb.
Okay, well, I'll leave now. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. I'll declare the meeting closed, and thank you everyone for patience today. Appreciate it. No, we don't.